let us have a new question. What is the difference between delegation and decentralization? Delegation and decentralization. Decentralization is closely related to delegation. However, decentralization is not the same as delegation. That is the main point to be noticed. Decentralization is closely related to delegation, but it is not the same as delegation. Delegation means entrustment of authority and responsibility from one individual to another. Delegation means entrustment of authority and responsibility from one individual to another individual. Both authority and responsibility are delegated, and in the case of decentralization, it means distribution of authority throughout the organization, not from one single individual to another single individual, but that is practiced all over the firm or organization. Decentralization means distribution of authority throughout the organization. In fact, decentralization is an extension of the concept of delegation. And here we have a chart showing the difference between the both. Here, first point, in the case of delegation, it is the transfer of authority from one individual to another. From one individual to another. That is the point to be stressed. And in the case of decentralization, it is the dispersal of authority throughout the organization. Entire organization is experienced the benefit of decentralization. And the second point to be noticed is delegation is the basis of decentralization. Delegation is the very basis of decentralization. And in the case of decentralization, we can say that it cannot be achieved in the absence of systematic and consistent delegation. Decentralization cannot be done without systematic delegation. And the third point is delegation is the cause and decentralization is the effect. And the fourth point is responsibility remains with the delegator. In the case of delegation, responsibility never handed over, or responsibility cannot be handed over to another person. Only authority to perform that function can be delegated. Nobody can delegate or transfer responsibility to a subordinate. Now, in the case of decentralization, both authority and responsibility are transferred to departmental heads or subordinates. And fifth point is, in the case of delegation, it is compulsory for effective management. Delegation is a compulsory act, or is compulsorily, it should be executed in order to have an effective management. And in the case of a decentralization, it is only optional. If we do not want to decentralize, okay, we can concentrate authority in our hands itself. Organization can function without decentralization. Then it will be called a kind of a autocratic authority, autocratic leadership. And in the case of delegation, it is a technique of management. Okay, in the case of delegation, we can say that it is only a technique of management. But in the case of decentralization, it is a wide concept and it can be said to be as a philosophy of management. It can be said as a philosophy of management. And the seventh and last difference between delegation and decentralization is this, that both authority delegated to subordinates may be withdrawn by the superior at any time. Any authority delegated by the superior to his subordinate can be withdrawn at his will at any time. it means that it is only a temporary arrangement. Delegation is only a temporary arrangement. But in the case of decentralization, most probably the authority is granted on permanent basis. When once we have done that decentralization, then the authority is granted to the subordinate or to the lower department, and that authority granted is forever, and we cannot take away that authority from that department at any time. This is the difference between, or these are the points of differences between delegation and decentralization, and this is an important question for all the examinations.